This episode is brought to you by Green Skies Analytics, an audit analytics service provider that works with internal audit departments that have data analysts and are still frustrated with trying to make analytics actually work, aren't getting the expected ROI, who can't break through the communication barrier between the analysts and the audit team, and those that need experienced direction for an audit analytics strategy and process. Those that feel like they've wasted time and money on trainings, aren't getting the value they want, not prioritizing the highest risk areas for the organizations, or have projects that seemingly never get completed. Do you deal with any of that? If you do, go to the show notes of this episode and click the Green Skies Analytics link, or go to greenskiesanalytics.com to schedule a call and understand how Green Skies Analytics makes analytics actually work for internal audit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audit Podcast. I'm your host, Trent Russell, and today we're going to bring together some of the best stuff that we could find relative to hiring and retention. It's still one of, if not the biggest issue for most internal audit departments and most CAEs. And so we wanted to bring the best stuff that we had, the best actionable advice around how to hire, how to retain that we have come across over the past probably year and a half now. And I mean, this is still relevant to the degree. I mean, last week I had a CAE that we were talking to say they've had a position open for 4 months in their internal audit department. They have one applicant, and that's largely because the expectation is they'll be in the office 5 days a week forever. Like zero hybrid flexibility, nothing like that. And so anyway, that also kind of helps spark the idea a bit. So with that said, here we go. All right, first up we have Scott Madenburg. He's the founder at Arc Hybrid, and he's going to be talking about recruiting talent versus character. Over the past probably year and a half, one of the biggest risks for pretty much every organization has been hiring and retention, recruiting and all that kind of good stuff. And I know when you and I have talked about this in the past, you talked about recruiting talent versus character. So kind of like talk us through your perspective around that. And I'm sure people are listening like, okay, he's not going to say don't recruit character. So how could you, if for those that are like, okay, we're good with the talent. This is, I think, really applicable, too, because the draft was last night, and they always talk about that, too. Do you get the best player? Do you get, like, the gym rat? You know, you want the combination of both. So maybe the question would be, how can we tease out that character as well? Like, how can we understand someone's character during an interview process if we're looking to hire, for example?
Yeah. You know, what sparked this, too, is a friend had shared a book that I should read, and I ended up reading it and, recommend others. It's called Hidden Potential by Adam Grant. And it was, when I was listening and reading through this as well, he was talking about character. And then that's where it really made me start thinking about this in greater terms, especially folks that I've worked with and hired in the past on my teams. Is there's going to be, obviously, the way I look at this is, if I'm designing and constructing a rocket to go to outer space, I need to hire rocket scientists. I need certain skill sets and talents around that. If you don't, you're going to be quite unsuccessful.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like internal audit, and what I've always found is character is so important. And it's a matter of, that, you have someone that can quickly think on their feet. They're dynamic. They're willing to work with others. They can take criticism. They want to learn. And also, too, they can learn from failure. And they're okay to fail. And I think that's very important. If, there's often a lot of times, you might hire someone that's strictly just talent, that's so good, but there may be that ego with it. And they may not be able to share and play with others. So, you do a lot with analytics, and we've talked about this too. And the fact is, I might need to hire someone that's really good in analytics and stuff, but are they willing to be okay with the fact of teaching others on the team how to do it, et cetera? But also, too, is, can you think critically? Anyone can start creating some analytics. You and I talked about, you do a quick pivot table when you created some type of analytic, but can you step back and think about it, maybe ask a few questions, but also have the right judgment to say, hey, I might be going down a rabbit hole. Let me bring someone else in and discuss it further. Yeah, it's very important. There's book smarts and there's street smarts.
Okay.
Some have both, some don't. But the thing about internal audit is that it's not black and white. It's very gray. And I'm not saying the gray is bad, but business is gray. And you and I talked about this previously, was there are folks that come from maybe an external audit that just look at, hey, because it is black and white, you have certain conditions, but they have a hard time transitioning to internal audit because they're like, yeah, but, where's the rule books? Well, sometimes you have to be more fluid than that. And so that's where I'm kind of speak about that. So one of the things about the hiring and interview process, I've been very successful working with some people who were not auditors, and they actually have great characters. I could teach them they had skill sets and expertise from the character that was really important to be a good auditor. I could teach them the basics of auditing, and they were great at it because they asked the right questions. And there were scenes to the point where I was more seasoned, but I was learning from them, which was great. But when it comes to the interview process, we always kind of get to the point of asking these questions, just do they know how to do X, Y, Z? But are you asking some questions to understand who they are as an individual? And by doing that and getting to know them as a person, you're going to start understanding their characteristics.
Yeah.
One thing I've always asked myself as a question when I interview someone is, hey, if I'm going on a business trip with this person for 1 or 2 weeks, could I see myself going on a business trip with them? Not that we're going to go out to dinner and spend every moment together, but hey, can we go do our work? And, hey, if they're going to go back to the room, hey, that's cool. But hey, maybe we'll go to dinner as a team or this or that. But it's always something. And it's just something, if I feel like I just don't know if I could actually sit on a plane with them for 2 hours, that may just not be the right thing.
Next, we have Melissa Pici. She's a senior IT auditor at Cineverse, and she's going to be talking about screening candidates based on passion, curiosity, and drive. Passion, curiosity, drive. And curiosity is one that, as an analyst, that I look for, because if not, to be curious is to go figure out a new way to do something, try to make it better, see something in the data and go, well, that looks funny. Let me just go take a look at, see what that is real quick. But then also having the discipline to not go down these huge rabbit holes all the time. You have to have the objective at the top. But
right.
So, and maybe we could break down these individually if that makes sense. But passion, curiosity, drive, how do you tease those out? If you were interviewing a candidate, how do you go, passion, yep, check, 10 out of 10. Drive, 8 out of 10. Curiosity, 6 out of 10, or so, whatever it is. I don't expect you to have a scale like that necessarily, but how do you determine that the folks that you're interviewing or considering have those skills?
So I think a lot of it too is to break out of the typical questions that you would ask during an interview. You still want to ask, what was your last job? What are the things you did? But I also want to look at things like, I'll ask them things like, are you into music? Are you into entertainment? Anything like that? Because usually somebody who is curious, they're going to be I'm into a lot of different things. Or they'll be like, hey, I started, maybe I was looking at something at work and it sparked my interest. And so I did this. What kind of research do you do? Ask them when you're getting ready to audit something new or start something new. Do you do any research ahead of time? If they're like, no, I just pretty much deal with it when I get there. Well, you can tell that curiosity is not there. Curiosity drives people. And it can be on anything. I am a research nut. I think part of it is my dad instilled in me. It was like, if you didn't know something, go look it up. He wouldn't even discuss a topic with you unless you looked it up first. So I got so used to always looking things up that even if I'm sitting and watching a TV show or a movie, and they say something about a topic or a word that I'm like, what is that? I'm immediately looking things up to be like, oh, okay. Don't know that I'll ever need that knowledge, but I want that. So I think there's a way to kind of suss that out of get that out of the personality. Typically, they're not always going to be, big personalities like I am. Some of them might be quieter. And it's a matter of asking, I think, more case specific. Like, give me an example of what you did when you were given, a specific control to test. How did you test that? And did you, find anything else coming out of that? The people that are curious and driven, they're going to share those details, I think. If they don't, then, when you're looking for an entry-level staff, that's a little bit harder. And that one is a little bit more trial and error because they haven't been out there yet. But again, that's where I think some of the HR, personal questions can come in as far as that goes. Is just asking, what are their interests? And I think you can kind of get an idea when it comes to those things.
Next, we have Jo Erven. She's a lecturer and director of internal audit education at Metropolitan State University of Denver. She's also, and most of you probably know her as, the founder and chief ethicist at Audit Consulting and Education LLC. And Jo's going to talk to us about preparing the next generation as a solution for hiring and retention. Just talking to someone about how for the past couple years, hiring retention has been the issue for CAEs for especially, I'd say, since 2020. And so if that's the case, why would you not want these programs in the universities and colleges around the world, but obviously where we live in the U.S., to be able to promote it? Because it's usually, hey, I'm an accountant, and I guess I can either go be an accountant, or I can go do public accounting, or I can go to internal audit, as opposed to, nope, here's the audit-specific thing, and where you're going to learn the differences between the two and why you probably should take this path than some other ones. So why do we not see more of these, and who should lead the charge on getting more of them going?
Great question. And I have to, in case anybody from the IIA is listening, the 160 pages include a lot of stuff, right? So like the application itself maybe ended up 12 pages, but you have to do a 5-year business plan, so that's another 10 pages. But anyway, you're including lots of syllabuses, lots of resumes, lots of other stuff. Anyway, I think personally, it's because of our academic system, the way it is. For example, my internal audit program lives under the accounting department. I would much rather it live just probably under the College of Business, right? You don't need to be a CPA to be a great internal auditor. Not to say that that's bad. I have my CPA. I never tell a student not to get it if they want it, but it doesn't have a very clear home. And so nobody knows where to put it, first of all. And I think that it's just this tradition in universities, the focus has been on external audit, and rarely any have an internal audit class. So it's literally starting a whole new class. And in academia, let me tell you, one change takes years, right? So a new class, getting it in that catalog. It took me 2 years to get, between me and my predecessor, to get a new internal audit certificate in our catalog. It's now in our catalog for fall of 2023. But anyway, everything's slow moving, to get a program started and to even get a class started. And I think there's not enough internal audit professor or professionals that want to come back and be professors either. So, that's another thing, just having the people of interest. You've got lots of people that'll come back and teach accounting or, want to teach a course at night. But it takes a lot of work to start a program. And that's probably why there's nothing foundational existing anywhere that they can build on. You mentioned LSU, just real quick. They're excellent, right? I'm pretty sure they were the very first IAEP school. They are a center of excellence. And what I see and where I want MSU to grow is I want it to be the hiring pool for the Denver area, chapter, for the Denver area chief audit execs. I have 15 chief audit execs and directors and managers on a board that advises me on what should be in my curriculum, what they want to see to hire directly from school, because that's another untraditional thing, right? We don't hire internal auditors straight from school. We hire them out of external audit, or, they've had some work experience. But if I can prove to them I've got them through this program, I'm even giving them a certificate, my question to the Denver area chief audit execs is, would you hire them? And the answer was yes. And so that's where I want to build a center of internal auditing, here, and that's their hiring pool. So we don't have those issues that you just mentioned. That's really my end goal, right?
All right, to wrap the show up, we have Megan Blackstone. This is probably one of my most recommended episodes to CAEs where they ask, hey, point me to one that you think I would like. I go listen to this Megan Blackstone episode, especially if you're having issues with hiring or retention. Fantastic. Maybe one of the best overall episodes in terms of practical advice and how to do something that we maybe have ever had. But Megan's the internal audit manager at True Blue, and she gives a complete breakdown of their hiring process. And they rarely have a position in their company that stays open for longer than a month. We talk in her episode, you can go listen to that one, I highly recommend it, about all the numbers, but their hiring and retention is top notch. And again, Megan walks you through exactly how they got to that point. And I don't know the stats around this, but I know you shared with me where you're at that the roles don't stay open for more than a month. I know people that have for 6, 9, 12 months where these roles stay open. So how are you making hiring easier? How are you making that happen?
So we have a really great talent pipeline. And one of the things that we do that a lot of other companies in our area don't do outside of like Big Four public accounting is sponsoring visas.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of employers are missing out on a lot of talent by not sponsoring visas. And it's okay not to be an expert on it. Like we use an immigration attorney because it's challenging to navigate. I mean, I'll be the first to admit it can be challenging to navigate the different types of visas and all the paperwork involved. But a lot of universities have programs that cover students working while they're enrolled. So it's called a CPT authorization. And so we get a lot of interns from the university, and then they can get their OPT authorization post-graduation while they apply for the annual H-1B visa lottery. I know that's a lot of acronyms and numbers, but essentially, there are programs, especially through the schools, to get these students in and get them started working while they apply for their visas, their H-1B visas. And some schools even they call it a STEM program, and it's not science, technology, and math. No. It's specifically an extended visa program.
Yep.
That gives you a longer authorization period, so they have more opportunities to enter the visa lottery. So often our international students coming out of for our case, our feeder program really is the master program at the university that's here in town with us. And a lot of times these international students are coming with significant workplace experience prior to enrolling in their master's program.
Yeah.
And we're talking 5 or 6 years in public accounting or in internal audit before they came and did their master's. And so these students really are high caliber candidates. And once they have their master's degree, they have a higher chance of being selected for H-1B visa lottery. So from our perspective, really the cost is pretty nominal to sponsor these visas. In green cards too. I mean, it's a good value proposition for the employees who are here and they have all these skills, and it gives them more incentive to stay.
And I feel like people, as soon as you said immigration lawyer, which sounds like a must in this because of how messy it can get, totally not worth it. We're not going to do that. But I got to think the cost benefit of retaining and or at least hiring is going to outweigh that cost, whether it's the stress of dealing with it or the actual fee itself.
Well, I mean, you just think about the additional stress you're putting on your team by having that role open for 6 to 12 months.
That is a good point.
And the additional overextended burnout that you could be driving on your team if you're not backfilling with contractors. So for us, if sponsoring visas and using our immigration attorney, we have a super diverse team. We have a really capable team with a really wide skill set, and it really didn't cost that much additional additional budget to make it so we could do that.
Yeah. All right. What about the maybe more traditional route of campus recruiting? How do you guys do that differently?
Yeah, so we're really plugged into the Accounting Student Association at our local university. We go and we lead lunch and learns at least once a year. We go to the campus recruiting fairs, and we also attend their accounting recognition dinner at the end of the year. Having students who are interns here or full-time who are in the master's program, they help recruit their friends, and we get, like I said, really quality candidates from the local university. And the university, they are really attuned whenever we have internships at the end. They ask us what skills should they be teaching that they're not teaching to their students. And the more recent graduates, I was going to say I have 3 who are graduating this week, so I'm pretty excited about that. But they're teaching students in these master's programs about robotic process automation and data analytics, where they get to try out a whole bunch of different tools that businesses are using. So in addition to all these accounting courses that they're coming out of, they're also coming out with baseline skill sets for technology tools to help move your department really further along that automation and analytics journey.
Very nice. And then I know we had someone else on the show mention this kind of tactic or technique also, but they would reach out or talk to their folks and go, hey, who in your network do you know what you think would be a good fit here too? How does your referral network work?
Yeah, so our company does have referral incentives, and we always ask our team to post any open roles. So we say, hey, we have this open role. Do you guys know anyone in your network? Can you post it on LinkedIn? And our whole team will post it.
Right.
And almost always we're getting, if we have a position that's not like our campus recruiting pipeline, we almost always fill these positions quickly with these referrals. And it's not always even just referrals internally. Sometimes it's previous employees, because we try to keep in contact with our former employees, and often they have people that they'll refer as well.
Okay. And then the last kind of point was around upskilling. So how are you using upskilling when onboarding folks or for looking to hire folks?
So I mentioned the apprenticeship model. We're really big on, say, bringing people along to learn how to do the skills and teaching them. I feel like there's no downside to that. It's part of the IAA standards that we need to be doing professional development and continuing education. And so the more time that we can spend developing the skills that our team members need, the more invested they're going to feel that we're investing in them, and it helps them grow, and then we promote from within. So, I mean, that's how I want to spend my time. It's way more fulfilling than being on a recruiting treadmill where we're reviewing resumes and interviewing and then training new hires. It takes, 6 months to get fully up to speed. When I can spend my time investing in my team and helping them develop skills that are going to be useful for us and training them in areas that they're growing in so they can move up and can continue to have a fulfilling career here.
Hey everyone, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Audit Podcast. Whatever platform you're listening on right now, I'm sure there's a subscribe button somewhere, so please hit the subscribe button there. If you're listening through iTunes or Spotify, feel free to go give us that 5-star rating. It only took me about 16 seconds to give myself a 5-star review, and it really helps to get future guests to come on the show, so we'd really appreciate that. Lastly, be sure to check out the show notes and follow us on all our social media channels on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on TikTok. Also, if interested, please sign up for our weekly newsletter from the Audit Podcast. Thank you all. Have a great one.